Hello everyone, and welcome. I would like to issue a quick trigger warning for today's video before we begin. Today we will be discussing the game You're Just Imagining It, a free-to-play chronic illness simulator. From that description alone, especially if you or someone you know is living with a chronic illness or disability, you can probably conclude that we're going to be talking about some heavier material today. Available on screen now is a list of sensitive topics I'll be discussing today that may be unsettling or triggering to certain audiences. If that includes you, please take care of yourself and consider sitting this one out. The topics in question include, but may not be limited to, chronic illness, rare conditions, and disabilities including chronic pain, medical gaslighting, lack of informed consent, medical misogyny and racism, weight-based discrimination in medicine, ableism in medicine and government, poverty, and themes of depression and hopelessness. This list may not cover everything as I am not perfect, however it should be enough to give you an idea of whether this video is for you or not. If it isn't, again, feel free to click away now and please find something that makes you smile. You deserve it. This video will also include story spoilers as the gameplay is only about 20 minutes long, give or take, and in order to really properly talk about the subject material, I feel it is important to discuss how the story plays out from beginning to end. If you're interested in experiencing this game for yourself, it is available for free through both the developer's itch.io page and Steam, so I encourage you to go check it out. Thanks! Welcome to You're Just Imagining It, a game created by NPC Casey, or Casey according to their blue sky, who is a game developer and translator who was diagnosed with a rare, chronic, and genetic condition, who decided to create a game based on their experience going through the diagnostic process. As they are currently on medication to delay the need for surgery associated with their condition, I'd like to take some time here to ask that if you're able, please consider checking out their games and social media to help support them through this time. I don't talk about it much publicly, but as a disabled person myself with a long family history of chronic illnesses and disabilities, this topic is close to home for me. I've seen first and secondhand the social, emotional, financial, and of course physical toll these conditions can take on a person, and it would be really great if you guys could show up for them and support them through whatever means you have available, even if it's just a follow on their social media. The goal of You're Just Imagining It is to get accurately diagnosed as quickly as possible while dealing with dismissive and arguably even harmful medical staff, something I think a lot of people with chronic conditions and disabilities can relate to. As the player, you approach a doctor after dealing with symptoms for some time thinking that you may have a rare chronic condition after doing your own research. This doctor pretty much immediately dismisses the idea and insists that your symptoms are all common and normal. This leads to the use of a phrase loved by far too many so-called medical professionals, as well as the general public: "You're just imagining it." After this cutscene, the game begins and you're given the option to have a quick tutorial or just dive right in. In short, your time in this game is divided into two segments: weekdays and weekends. Weekdays will give you the option to rest, which will improve your health and mental well-being a small amount, or to work, which will decrease both of the aforementioned stats but also generate money for you to be able to see the doctor. You're never going to have a comfortable amount of money unless you sacrifice your physical and mental health, and if you prioritize your rest and happiness, you won't have enough money to meet your needs. Something I think even healthy and able-bodied folks can relate to these days, but it is a good subtle commentary on the relationship between poverty and disability, which, if you don't know, are two things that are very heavily correlated and even systemically enforced by many governments around the world via caps on how much money you can earn by working and still be allowed to keep your access to medical assistance, financial assistance, and more. If you're not familiar with this, I highly encourage you to look into it. For now, though, back to the game. On the weekends, you'll have two more options on top of still being able to rest or go to work. You can go to the doctor to try to get care. This comes with both a financial and mental cost, or you can play to de-stress and regain some energy, though this will cost you some money. The gameplay is simple, but especially considering this was a damn near solo project with a much bigger message behind it, I'm not complaining. Each doctor has different suggestions, though none of them really want to do anything to explore the problem on a deeper level or do much more than a band-aid solution at best. The first one prescribes a topical NSAID, but insists that the underlying problem must just be the fact you do computer work, and therefore the only way to make the problem stop is for you to stop doing your job, which is a weirdly common piece of advice in medicine that really just lines patients up to constantly feel like they're the problem. Go to work, make your condition worse, don't go to work, maybe or maybe not have your condition get a little better, but now you also can't afford rent or co-pays or food. Yay! Such helpful advice! Thank you, medical professional! Admittedly, the topical NSAID helps a bit in this scenario, though it should be noted that historically this treatment can be ineffective for some, and it's more of a temporary band-aid on issues long term. But this doctor isn't interested in looking at things deeper, which is a problem I've unfortunately witnessed within my own family regarding chronic pain. The doctor has found one thing that kind of works to make your life slightly more tolerable for a while, so that's it. Trying to ask for further care or testing results in the player being told that it's their fault that they're in pain and that they, quote, probably have too much anxiety too, which, oh my god. This single line invoked so much rage in me because I have watched how quickly some medical providers will dismiss a patient's problems as being rooted in anxiety, especially if the patient is a woman and or has an anxiety diagnosis on record. Yet, somehow, the second doctor is worse. They suggest that all your problems are because you're too thin and therefore malnourished, despite the player character insisting that they eat a balanced diet. Weight-based discrimination in medicine is so weirdly common, especially, again, in regards to female and non-white patients, but it does happen to everyone. If you're thin, you're too thin and therefore malnourished. If you're fat, you're too fat, no matter how much or how little you actually are overweight by BMI, which is, by the way, if you didn't know, deeply flawed, rooted in racism, and not actually a good indicator of what is or isn't a healthy weight. So what does the second doctor do? They prescribe vitamins that do literally nothing, and that's that. No testing, no other medications, do not pass go, do not improve your physical or mental health. They're about as helpful as the doctor who once tried to suggest essential oils to a family member of mine who was dealing with repeated episodes of acute pancreatitis. The third doctor, admittedly, does actually want to do more. They suggest a surgery, but they fail to explain to the player what they think the problem is, and by extension, why they think we need surgery. The problem here isn't necessarily that the doctor doesn't want to do anything this time, like I said. It's the lack of communication or informed consent and a lack of willingness to actually look deeper into the problem or explore alternatives that aren't just throw medication at the patient regardless of if it works or not and call it a day that are the problems here. Even if they are desperate for help, patients are entitled to informed consent always. Had the doctor in this scenario taken the time to explain what they think is going on, why surgery would help, and what all that surgery would entail, the patient may have agreed to it. But because they're being left out of the conversation around their own care, this leads to distrust and fear. Even if you're incapacitated and therefore cannot make decisions for yourself, your next of kin, advanced directive designee, or medical power of attorney proxy are entitled to informed consent regarding your care. Informed consent is one of the most important parts of healthcare, and that is entirely absent in this scenario. Having a doctor, or worse, multiple doctors who do not listen to you, who do not actually try to get to the root of the issues you're having, who do not take your consent or feelings into consideration can be soul-crushing and make you want to give up. They can make you feel like it's your fault that you feel the way you do, that it's pointless to continue pursuing care, that you're just imagining it. The patient gives up on doctors. It takes quite a bit of pushing and for things to get really bad before they will finally go to the doctor this one last time. But this time, something unexpected happens. The last doctor of the game suggests that we might have the condition we approached the first doctor with. They do mention that it's not common, but that our symptoms match up. It took me 8 years in-game to get this ending the first time, and 7 the second time. The numbers I found varied a bit, but for those under 50, it takes roughly 5 to 10 years on average to get diagnosed with a rare condition. Around 10% of people are experiencing some kind of rare condition in general, meaning that while, yes, a condition may be rare when you look at it as an isolated statistic separate from every other rare condition in the world, overall, rare conditions are not that rare at all. In med school, doctors are not uncommonly taught the phrase, "If you hear hooves, assume it's horses, not zebras." Which means if you see symptoms, you should assume it's the more common conditions and not a rare condition, which I get the sentiment of, but I think sometimes doctors forget it might just be a zebra. Patients shouldn't be suffering both from their condition and from medical neglect for years at a time just because of a one-off phrase parroted in lecture halls. Patients deserve adequate and equitable access to diagnosis and care, and that shouldn't be a controversial opinion. In the final few moments of the game, after years of suffering and dismissal and neglect, we finally hear the words that I didn't think would make me cry the way they did. You're not imagining it. You're Just Imagining It is a work of art. This game, short and simple as it may be, is such an important piece of a much bigger picture. I'm so grateful to Casey for making this game, and I hope in the future we can continue to see chronic illness and disability talked about more in the world of gaming. This is a topic that means so much to me with the background I come from, and I know they likely won't see this, but I really would like to thank Casey personally for their work here. Casey, this is a truly phenomenal game, and I will 100% be checking out more of your work after this. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for bringing to light such an important conversation through your work. What about you guys? Do you have any recommendations for games that follow journeys around chronic illness, rare conditions, or disabilities? These topics aren't really commonly talked about, and even less often are they the focal point for games, so I'd really love to hear your recommendations if you have them. I'll leave my sources for any statistics I referenced in the description, as well as some further reading for anyone who would like to learn more about some of the topics I discussed in this video. As always, thank you for your support, and until next time, stay cozy.